everyone. Welcome in to the Blitz podcast. As always, I've already had the whole spiel where we've been off for a few weeks, and there's this thing that happens to people called burnt out, where you get a little tired. But I feel rejuvenated now as we head in. Honestly, surprisingly, I feel rejuvenated heading into finals, just because I think my brain's been switched to a work mode. So I'm ready to dive into everything. So I'm ready to dive into some fucking power rankings. How about you, man?
Yeah, I'm ready to go. For all of you that haven't hit a bet in 2 weeks or have lost all your fantasy games over the last 2 weeks and have been looking for analysis, you don't know what to do. You're looking side to side. You can't find any valid information. We're back. So, get ready, sit back, and you're going to learn a lot today about what we think of these 32 NFL franchises.
Yes, exactly. As we put it right before we entered, we are going to rank some power here today. And this has been our most popular segment by far in the history of the Blitz podcast so far. And it's not even a debate. Our TikTok was pretty hot for a while. That was our hottest thing. But now the power rankings are certified, which we did have power rankings on the TikTok. And that's where it started first.
Yeah.
So technically, power rankings have always been cooking. But yeah, we haven't done it in 2 weeks. So there's been a lot of rotation, a lot of shit going on the past 2 weeks. So these rankings are going to look most different that we've put together. The most different power rankings that we've put together all year. So I'm excited. But yeah, without further ado, let's fucking dive into it, man. All right. So, as I mentioned, we've missed the past 2 weeks. So the rankings rate back to week 10, right?
Following week 10, yeah. Or heading into week 10. No, I don't know.
Okay.
I'll look. I'll get a date.
But yeah, so these power ranks are from 2 weeks ago. A lot of movement around. But some big things have happened. I mean, the Vikings got their shit slapped by the Cowboys 2 weeks ago. The Eagles lost to the Commanders. And then you had shit go on this week. Not too many upsets, but you saw the Ravens go down to Jacksonville. So there's a lot of movement to be done on the power rankings this week. So let me recap it for the audio listeners. And if you want to follow along, look at our last power rankings post. But we've got, in the first tier, Chiefs, Eagles, Vikings, Dolphins, Bills, Ravens, 49ers, and Titans. And then in tier 2, we had the Bengals, Giants, Jets, Cowboys, Seahawks, Bucks, Commanders, and then the Patriots. In tier 3, we had the Chargers, Packers, Browns, Cardinals, Colts, Steelers, Bears, and Lions. And then to round it out at tier 4, we had the Broncos, Rams, Falcons, Jags, Saints, Panthers, Raiders, and Texans. So, also the Raiders have won 2 games in spectacular fashion since then, so they definitely won't be as low. But yeah, a lot of movement going on. Alright, so let's start moving some teams around. Let's start ranking some teams based on power. I'm excited. Let's fucking do it. So, can we agree that the Chiefs still belong in 1?
Yeah, I got that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much of a conversation to be had. Do you think Travis Kelce wins MVP this year? I think, in my opinion, he's my MVP.
No, I think it's Pat. It's pretty fairly in front. It's Patrick Mahomes right now, but he's definitely putting together a final, not a final case, but a very strong case to be considered the greatest tight end of all time.
What is Mahomes without Travis Kelce this year?
What is Travis Kelce without Patrick Mahomes? You want to play that game? Plus, it's quarterback award.
Yeah.
It's never... If a wide receiver or an Aaron Donald type, a tight end will never, ever win it. Ever. Offensive player of the year, probably still a long shot, even if he does put up fantastic numbers, just because that's usually a running back receiver award. But MVP is completely out of the conversation.
Offensive player of the year?
Offensive player of the year, I think Tyreek's still up there. The running backs have kind of subsided. But Tyreek, Justin Jefferson, but I think Kelce's 100% in that conversation.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So Chiefs at 1, no debate there. Now we move on to that number 2 spot, and this is where things really start to get interesting for the first time in a while.
Oh dear.
What?
Just you're about to move the Eagles, aren't you?
I am about to move the Eagles. Are you moving? Are you not moving the Eagles?
I'm not moving the
What?
Eagles.
They lost to the Commanders at home, my guy.
Who we have, or who we had, and I still have, as a tier 2 team. And I know that it's like the Commanders, so we don't give it a whole lot of credit, but they were there.
Yes, but this was a team that was not formidable, not the most formidable team in football.
And listen, there were a lot of things in that game that happened for the Commanders.
There were
a lot
of things that went both ways because
Yeah, but like and it's not. I'm not talking about ref stuff. I'm talking like obviously the face mask on the fumble. Yeah, whatever. But a fumble at all is weird. Then they have the one. I think it was like 3 minutes left. They have the deep shot. They're at the 20, and Quez Watkins just drops the ball, like in how Deshaun Jackson did it a couple of years ago against the Chiefs when he maybe could have ran in for a touchdown. Just has the ball popped out from behind him. I didn't come out of that game being like, oh man, the Eagles are in trouble. Like I saw like a tweet that was like, wow, Commanders just put on tape how to beat the Eagles, make them double their turnover differential or their turnover number for the year and get a couple questionable calls.
there was, but any of those calls could be traced back to bad calls on the Commanders side. Everybody wanted to look at it through the Eagles lens just because they were the best team in football prior to that. But like that pass interference call on St. Juice, or it might have been Forrest. I think it was St. Juice though. Was horrific. That was terrible. That put them right up against the goal line, and then they scored. There were multiple. You could trace most, and it's 2 weeks ago now, so forgive my memory. But
Yeah, I know that's the is like, yeah, I remember what happened last week, but I also don't remember, like, I don't take it into account because I'm so used to doing this week by week, where like we've already accounted for what happened in week 11, and we're just doing both weeks, so it's a little weird. Who do you got it to then? If you're replacing the Eagles,
well, it's somebody who have been playing well in the past 2 weeks. They did have a bye last week, but then they take care of business this week, and I think it's the Dolphins, dude. I think you have to move the Dolphins at 2. It's hard. I know it's crazy to think about, but I mean, this offense is fucking rolling right now. They're so confident. Mike McDaniel has his guys cooking. The defense looks phenomenal. They beat the fucking Bills. Like, it's shaping up to be Dolphins season.
They beat the Bills in September. They beat the Bills in September. Slow
yeah.
Down. Okay.
When it was probably the hardest to beat the Bills.
The Dolphins I have at 4. Because in 2 weeks they have essentially had 2 bye weeks. They have not played, and then they played the Texans. I have no reason that I would be like, oh yeah, Dolphins need to move up a couple spots here. Like, I still feel better about the Eagles. I know the run defense problem is like a legit thing. Like, if there is one concern that I'm picking out from Philly from that Washington game, it's that their run D was a little susceptible. But Jordan Davis just got the 21-day window opened up, so he'll be back. You also have Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh coming in there to reinforce that as well. They really dominated a Packers team. I know it ended up being a touchdown game, but they, put it together. The Packers put together a late drive or two to make that a lot closer than it really was. I mean, they dominate. They had like 300 rushing yards in that game.
If it weren't for 2 Aaron Rodgers picks, the Packers win that game. The Packers self-inflicted a loss upon themselves. They were going to win, man. They were going to win if they didn't, because they were down 2 touchdowns to start the game, 14-0. So, like, basically you didn't have a shot after that. And it was because of the Rodgers interception on the first drive. So, like, I mean, they barely beat the Packers at home, and they lost to the Commanders the week prior. You look at the teams close to up to here. I mean, the Dolphins took care of business this week. And then the Bills.
Yeah, again.
The Bills,
2
okay.
bye weeks.
The Bills almost lost to the Lions at Ford Field. There's literally a picture of Josh Allen and Diggs hugging. That's like, I mean, I'm just looking at the teams around.
I'm not putting the Bills in. I've got the Bills at 5. So I don't really have a problem with having the Bills below the Dolphins. But I think that at the where do you have the Eagles then?
I have. You're not gonna like it. I have the Eagles at 5.
See, now that's insane because they've lost one game all year.
Yeah.
To have them at 5 is kind of insane.
Back-to-back weeks though, and then also in week 11, I mean, they played the Colts really close, man.
Wait, hold
Wait,
on. So
you're
the
right.
Commanders' losses in week 10.
3 weeks ago. So they've had
Okay, so we already adjusted for them losing to Washington.
right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So they were at 2 after after losing to Washington, and then they've won 2 games and we're moving them down to 5.
They almost lost to Jeff Saturday. They won by 1 point, and I know I flimsily throw around this close game thing, and I know I do that, but 1 point is a fucking close game, mate. And
I agree.
Yeah. So
the Colts gave them, the Colts gave them a good game,
and they shouldn't have. It's Jeff Saturday's second week of coaching.
I still feel better about, like, if the Eagles play the Dolphins, I think the Eagles are favored.
Well, now you've got Jordan Davis out. Like, I know they opened up the 21-day window.
He's coming back though. He's been out for like
eventually
a month. He's coming back.
Yeah. I can't.
I will move because so I had the Cowboys at 3 in front of the Dolphins. I would be willing to move the Dolphins up to 3, but I can't move them in front of the Eagles when, since we last did power rankings, the Dolphins were at 4. They've had a bye week and then they played the worst team in football and beat them as they should. I can't move them up over a team that has 1 loss on the year. And again, that game had a lot of stuff going on for both sides.
Okay. All right. God. So I guess we're keeping the Eagles at 2. I mean, Jalen Hurts just ran for almost 200 or more than 200 yards and for 3 touchdowns. I mean, this team is really good. So, I mean, I can't argue against it too much. But we're sliding the Dolphins in right behind the Eagles. Sure. The Cowboys do have a claim to 4. I think.
Why the hell did we have them at 12?
No, that was because they lost to the Packers.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean, obviously we saw them kick the shit out of Minnesota and then
win on Thanksgiving.
This past week they beat the Giants, take care of business there. I don't feel as good about Buffalo with what's going on with Josh Allen. Obviously, Deion Dawkins is hurt. Von Miller's hurt. The injuries are starting to pile up for Buffalo, and Josh Allen's play is starting to decline. Like, the turnover-worthy plays are starting to happen a lot more often, which is causing a lot more turnovers, obviously. I'm not as, high on them as I was 2 months ago or even a month ago.
No, I can get with that, and I do think the Cowboys have, obviously they're a tier 1 team now. You go to Lambeau, you lose to Aaron Rodgers team that played Philly really close just on Sunday Night Football this past week. So it's hard to win in Lambeau, man. But yeah, I'm putting the Cowboys up there. But where are we putting this 49ers team, man, who have won the past 2 weeks? Because they definitely have a claim up there as well.
I've got the Niners at 6. I would like to move them up a little bit higher.
Personally, they have not had the ugly loss that the Cowboys had against Green Bay. That was an ugly loss, like what the fuck happened kind of loss. And the Niners have gone 6 weeks since that kind of deal. I mean, so last week,
yeah, I think they were 3-4 at one point. Now they're 7-4, so they've gone at least a month or so without losing a game. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey's getting a little bit more acclimated there.
So if you look at,
I mean, if we want to move them to 4, it's just, I know records aren't everything, but I feel like that's kind of been what's holding them back is the fact that they're
so
like 7-4.
In the past 3,
but now that's
week 10.
Go ahead.
They beat the Chargers on Sunday Night Football, 22-16, close game. That was a good game, a good win. Then this past week, or 2 weeks ago, they beat the 49ers in Arizona, 38-10, handily. Yep.
Beat themselves.
And then they shut out the Saints, which is hard to do, man. They shut out the Saints 13-0 this past week at home. So
I'm
okay.
cool with moving them to 4. We can move them to 4 if we want to do that. And then I've got Dallas at
Okay.
5 and then Buffalo at
Yeah,
6.
I'm with that. I've got the Dolphins ahead of the Eagles, but
and then
yeah, okay. I think that's a solid tier 1 so far, but
and then I've got Minnesota after Buffalo. So Minnesota's at 7. And then I've got Cincinnati at 8.
yeah, so I originally had Chiefs, Dolphins, Bills, 49ers, Eagles, Cowboys, Bengals. So I have an orientation of that. I don't think the Vikings are. I mean, I know the Patriots are good, but they barely beat them. Barely on Thanksgiving. And the week before that, they got proved to be a non-contender by the Cowboys. So
yeah, I mean, this is going to be a big week for them. They've got the Jets this week. If they lose this game, we're going to have some serious conversations about Minnesota. But on the flip side, if they win this game, I'm pretty sure they clinch the NFC North, which is absolutely crazy to have happen in week 13 of a 18-week season. Like, that is insane to clinch it 6 weeks before the season is over. It just speaks to how bad that division is and really how bad the Packers have been this year. I could definitely hear an argument for. In fact, yeah, I'd probably be willing to do that if we want to just make that switch clean and easy.
yeah, I mean, Tennessee was a team that we had in tier 1, and they lost at home against the Bengals this past week. So I think we got to give the Bengals their flowers, especially with Jamar Chase coming back. So yeah,
for sure. Outside of Patrick Mahomes, I think Joe Burrow's been the second best quarterback or two. Like, he's really been putting together some good performances. Obviously, without Jamar Chase as well, he's still being able to perform. You get Joe Mixon back this week as well, in all likelihood, coming back from that concussion. His team's getting hot at the right time again. So, you never know. I know we were talking this preseason, like, man, Cincy might not make the playoffs and all this other stuff, but they're getting hot at the right time again. This offense is scary.
you know what else I'm scared of? All the Cincinnati fans that will crawl out of the woodwork within these next couple weeks as they make their playoff run down here in Lexington, Kentucky. Can't wait for that. But yeah, rounds out our tier 1 for sure. And now we move on to tier 2, and to lead that tier, I have the Titans.
As do
okay, all right. They lose to the Bengals this week. A good team. Can't really doubt them for that. But the week before that, they went to Lambeau and beat the Packers handedly, something that the Cowboys, our 5th-ranked overall team, could not do. So this Titans team is still here, is still legit, for sure. So, following them up, I have, and honestly, they should be lower if it weren't for the teams below them. I mean, I've got the Ravens next, but I could hear an argument for teams being ahead of them.
I've got the Ravens next as well for pretty much the same reason. Like, maybe they could be up in tier 1, maybe they should be lower, but they keep blowing leads, and you can't keep doing that. You want to be successful. You got to win, 3 or 4 straight games to win a Super Bowl, and they have not done that this year without blowing a 10 or more point
They have
lead.
some ugly losses too, dude. Like, now, the way the Giants have been playing recently, like, that loss to the Giants looks pretty ugly now. That Panthers game, they were tied 3-3 going into the 4th quarter.
For like 3, yeah. I mean, like, they're not playing very well right now, and it's been a really up and down season for Lamar in a year where, you'd really want to see some big developments from him in a contract year where, hearing that, you'd be able to be more of a pocket passer, you got to be more accurate, you got to be more decisive with your throw. And so inconsistent from him this year. I know that they haven't had their wide receiver 1 in Rashad Bateman. They've missed some time from Mark Andrews, but you've got to be able, if you want to be a $50-60 million, fully guaranteed quarterback, you've got to be able to work through that kind of stuff, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, it seems like a lot of Lamar Jackson is trending in the wrong direction right now, which is kind of sad. He seems really pissed off at the press conferences. I mean, it seemed like, I hate to say this, but I mean, Lamar did it to himself. Like in the first like 3 years, he was always like, "Yes, sir," "No, sir," like the most formal dude you've ever met at a press conference, and it was like, "Oh shit, like this guy's awesome," and that's kind of what created like the love for Lamar originally, and now you see him just like kind of fucking off. Yeah,
He's not. Yeah, it's not all going his way now. So he's a little
yeah,
upset
like
in the press
he's
conferences.
basically like, I saw a clip and he's just like blowing off the questions, just mumbling through them, and it's like Harbaugh. And then he tweeted that after the game.
I was about to say going at
Yeah,
people on
it's
Twitter.
uncharacteristic
Not a good look.
of Lamar Jackson. But I mean, money stresses all people. Gotta understand that, but it's gonna mean bad things for the Ravens, so that's why they bumped out of that tier 1. But let's start putting together the rest of this tier 2, man. I've got the Jets following the Ravens up.
So I've got Tampa there, and I know, but they also, it's weird because we're coming off of the loss, but they also won 2 weeks ago against a good Seattle team in
Seattle
Germany.
team that
And
since then has lost to
I
the Lions.
no, they lost to the
They've
Raiders.
lost. The Lions beat the Seahawks in the past few weeks. Hold on, here, keep talking. Sorry.
Yeah, I've still got. I mean, Tampa again. I know I'm Mr. Paper Watcher, but that is a solid predictor of how good a team is. Um, and we're talking about one of a former Super Bowl champion 2 years removed from that. A lot of that team's still there, and they're going to walk. They're probably going to win this division, and they're going to walk in against a Giants or a Seattle or a Washington in round 1, and they're going to be favored by like 4 or 5 points because this is a good football team, and the teams below them I just don't feel that confident about. I mean, the Jets is an interesting conversation because we don't know when Mike White's not going to be the quarterback, and we don't know if Zach Wilson's going to come back. Obviously, that changes things drastically. I don't think that because Mike White came out and put on a okay performance against a
He
Chicago
threw for
defense
like
that's like
300
dog shit
yards and 3
awful.
touchdowns.
Yeah, but I think like 150 of that was yak. Like it's what Robert Saleh said was he made the easy stuff look easy, and props to him for doing that. But like, I'm not like White is going to save this Jets franchise because really he's not that. He just does. He just makes the easy stuff look easy, like Robert Salah said.
He's a Jimmy G and not make the big mistakes.
Yeah, but
And
to a lower level,
sure.
a
I mean, how much of a lower level though?
pretty lower
How
level.
much of a lower level? Not really.
I mean, he was third on the depth chart to come into the year for a reason, behind Zach Wilson, who was proven to be awful, and like a 37-year-old Joe Flacco.
Threw for
And there's a reason
500
why he
yards
ended up, yeah,
against the
and there's a reason
Bengals.
why after, one game against the Bengals, he kind of started to fall apart once his playmakers aren't making crazy plays like we see with Jimmy G. If he doesn't
It
have
was
a
his
Debo
rookie year,
Samuel
by
that
the
can
way.
turn a 3. Yeah, but he hasn't. It's Mike White, dude. He's not even getting the attention that Zach Wilson's getting because all the like rookie development stuff's going towards Zach Wilson. Mike White's just there to, put a jersey on. Like, if you have days where those playmakers aren't making those crazy after the catch plays, the offense is not going to be able to move. And we're seeing that running back room start to get injury troubles. James Robinson was a healthy scratch. Michael Carter gets hurt in like the second quarter. They're not slowly starting to fall apart, but again, I'm not going to like give them big props for beating a Bears defense that's like awful.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I see your argument, but I wouldn't give them too much props. The week before that too, they lost to the Pats. But they have made the quarterback change since then. Obviously, this team's 7-4, man. Like, I don't think we can just.
No, I agree, but look, I just don't think that Mike White.
I agree.
I don't think this is sustainable. It wasn't sustainable last year. It lasted 2 games, and then it ended up falling off, and they made the quarterback change again because Mike White just doesn't do enough to keep a job for
Okay.
long enough.
Neither can Jimmy G. It seems like that's why they signed him to backup quarterback contract and certified backup. but because I think that Mike White Jimmy G comparison is actually pretty fucking close. Uh,
Yeah, but Jimmy G was like, played under Tom Brady, was brought into San Francisco to be the starter for a good reason, because he was like, I think he was a second round pick, um, and was like supposed to, not the savior of the 49ers franchise, but like was signed to be the franchise quarterback in San Francisco, Mike White, for a good reason.
Okay. All right. That's fair. But I will not put the Jets behind the Buccaneers. There's no shot. This Buccaneers team is 5-6. They were up by a touchdown with a minute to go, and they lose that game against the Browns. A Jacoby Brissett led Browns. No thanks.
Look, they didn't look good.
They did not.
They didn't look good this week. But look,
it's the Bucs. It's Tom Brady. Like, I've been hearing the same fucking
exactly,
shit.
Exactly. That is my point.
I've been hearing, okay, but like, at what point is Tom Brady not Tom Brady anymore? Like, I think we're at that point where.
At what point is Tom Brady Mike White? That's when he turns like 55. He'll be Mike White.
Okay, but the team outside of the quarterback position, the Jets, I feel, are better than the Bucs.
Yeah, but honestly, I think it's marginal. Like that paper watcher over here, that Bucs roster is really good, and so is the Jets. But the quarterback differential is astronomical in literally every way.
To get them back on track, the Bucs beat the Rams, the worst team in. By the way, the Rams are a bottom team 3 for me this week. Spoiler alert. But they beat to get back on track. Like, they beat the Rams by 3. Congrats. And then they beat the Seahawks, and the Seahawks have kind of been flailing these past couple weeks. I mean, they're going to be moved down in our rankings. They just lost to the Raiders in overtime, who we had as the second worst team in football 2 weeks ago. So, yeah, I can't get with it. For perspective, teams that I have in front of the Bucs, I don't even have them in tier 2.
Dear God. Dear God.
Oh, it's Washington. It's definitely Washington. It's definitely Washington. It's the team that matches up well against him. If you recall back to that wild card matchup 2 years ago.
What was the score of that game, Kane? Who won that game, Kane?
Okay, all right. And then Tom Brady won a Super Bowl like he does every other year, it seems like. But
you're making my point for me. It's
not Tom Brady anymore, though. So this isn't the same guy. This is a skeleton.
He's not bad. Like, he's not playing bad.
Okay.
He's really not. Like,
what if I told you last year that Tom Brady just lost in the final minute of a football game up by a touchdown to the Cleveland Browns? What if I told you that like 5 years ago?
Tom Brady's not playing safety, pal. Tom Brady doesn't allow David Njoku to catch a ball one-handed in the end zone on a 4th and 12.
Yes, okay, all right. But they weren't even up in that game. Like, they should have had a certifiable lead. But, fuck, they surrendered one. So, okay, all right, let's stop. The Commanders, though. Okay. Let me make my argument, dude. Like, we don't want to move the Eagles because of the creds that you want to give to Washington. So, put your money where your mouth is, man, respectively. Put your money where your mouth is. You look at what this Commanders team has been doing over the past, 7 weeks since Taylor Heineke took the helm. We beat the Falcons in a close game this past week. Took care of business in Houston, 23-10. Took care of business at the Link against the Eagles. And I don't know how you can watch that game and be like the Eagles are not in trouble. Because, I watched the entire game, obviously. And 32-21 was the final score. Like, fuck. Like, that's a problem.
They scored on a lateral touchdown with no time left on the clock. The score was 26-21.
Yeah, okay. Okay, you're right.
Be real here.
But yeah, we go to the Link. We beat the best team in football. We lose by 3 to the Vikings at home, which is not a bad loss for sure. And then we beat the Colts in Indy, and we beat the Packers 23-21. So that's a hell of a stretch, man.
But on the contrary, if you take away the Eagles, again, lateral, it's 26-21 in my mind. A lateral touchdown with no time left on the clock. No, I'm not saying not take away the Eagles game, but don't count the Eagles game in what I'm about to say. You guys have not beat a non-Texans team by more than one score all year.
That's been the same case that we've been arguing with the Vikings the entire time. Like, they win close games,
I know, and that's why
and they get business done. But, I mean, we haven't had those ugly losses yet that the Vikings have had since Taylor Heineke took the helm. So we haven't really proved that we can't win these close games. Like, we're winning the football games. And also, we're playing at New York this week. We're favored by 2.5. Like, that tells you what Vegas thinks of us. Like, that's a really good spread.
I know.
So I have the Commanders behind the Jets.
Yeah, you should be favored against the Giants.
I have the Commanders behind the Jets, personally. But what are the teams that you have?
Okay. So I have I moved the Jets up. I have the Jets at 11. Then I have the Bucks, then the Chargers, then Seattle, then New England, then Washington.
Chargers will not be in my. They'll be in my tier 2, but at the bottom of it, dude. Like, these Chargers are not above the Commanders. They narrowly escaped Arizona, and again, I know I threw that term around pretty loosely.
The Commanders have narrowly escaped. Every win that they've had this year has been a narrow escape. They just the Commanders just narrowly escaped Atlanta.
We can win those close games, though. The Chargers can't seem to win those close games if it aren't for the choke job.
Every game that they're got 6 close wins and 5 close losses.
The Cardinals didn't score on their last, and I know, like, it wasn't because of spectacular defensive play either. Like, they did not score on their final 3-4 drives in that game. So they just gave the Chargers, who also did not score on 3 of those 4 drives, I'm pretty sure. So it was 3 and out. It's not like they were driving down the field. The Cardinals went 3 and out. So we're bumping them up out of tier 3 up to tier 2 in the upper echelons of tier 2 for beating the Cardinals barely.
Well, I've got them at like the middle of tier 2. They're 13, so they're technically in the lower echelon.
All right, that's fair. But the Commanders are definitely better. Because we can win football games. The Chargers seem to barely do it. I was gonna say it the other day.
They have one less win than the Commanders. They have one less win.
Okay, but let's take a look. Let's take a gander. Play the Raiders this week. That should be fun. They beat the Cardinals by 1 point thanks to a final drive touchdown. They lose to the Chiefs by 3 at home, which was a good game. They lose to the 49ers. They beat the Falcons in Atlanta. They lose 37-23 to the Seahawks. Beat the Broncos. Okay.
The fact of the matter is,
they're back healthy.
As good as that team is, yeah, and they're back healthy. But you're never going to feel good about Taylor Heineke quarterbacking your team if we're talking about power rankings. Any given week, Taylor Heineke could fucking tank the entire route with like a 4-pick game. Any given week.
Has he though?
Because he has. I know he hasn't.
Has he ever thrown a 4-interception game?
But he's got multiple 4 turnover worthy play games. I'm fairly certain. I'm going to look at that right now.
Who has it?
I mean, fair enough, but he doesn't make enough big plays he just scrapes by with the skin of his teeth all the time. I'm sorry. I know you're upset. I understand. It hurts to hear. I know.
Well, he's never gotten close to throwing 4 interceptions. I could say that about him.
But, I mean, of 50 quarterbacks that have taken a snap this year, Taylor Heineke is... Where's he at? Is he not on here? Because has he not played enough snaps?
Anyway.
I guess he hasn't. What the fuck?
That Taylor Terry combination is something special. It's unguardable right now. Like, little spoiler alert for the episode, but I've got him as a dud on my duds list, headed into fantasy playoffs. But on the other hand, this matchup so far has been matchup proof, So I think teams will start to adjust to that. But if they do, all right, I was talking to Tyler last week. We probably have, or 2 weeks ago, we probably have one of the top 5 running back committees in the league. Because Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson are certifiably a committee now, and it's awesome.
No, it's been really good. That's the thing that, like, if I'm moving the committees up, that's why, because that run game has really gotten working over the last few weeks. But I just am not ever
And
going
also,
to feel good ranking that team
well,
highly.
do you feel good about Chase Young? This guy decided to sit out again this past week, which is unbelievable. But besides the point, he comes back this week. So you add that to a run defense that is top 5 in the league right now, a front that is playing elite football. You add a Chase Young to that, I think that team belongs right behind it.
Whew. All right.
Yeah. If we can move the Giants up into the upper echelons when they were winning their games, we can move the Commanders up.
And I was against that too. Taylor Heineke, of 38 quarterbacks that have played at least 200 snaps this season, is 37th in PFF.
Like, more of what Taylor's been doing lately is not losing us the game. Like, I know that you said, like, he's going to throw 4 interceptions at some point. Like, I think he realizes what his role is now. Like, he came out during the offseason and was like, obviously you're not going to bench a guy that's being paid $30 million a year. Like, he realizes his role now, which is minimal risk taking. And
yeah, but that's not him though. Like, what he does is, I know that I can't do this, but Terry McLaurin can, or Curtis Samuel can. I'm going to get them the ball no matter what. If they're in triple coverage or if they're right behind me, I'm going to give them the ball. And sometimes that leads to things like throwing into triple coverage, but the corner gets knocked down by a referee,
that was like
and Curtis Samuel falls
5 weeks
backwards
ago,
for
man.
touchdown.
Like,
that was 3 weeks ago. I know it's time perception is weird right now.
Well, we've won 3 games in a row since then, buddy, old friend.
I know, so that's why I've given up, because it's hard to argue a Commanders fan about how unserious the Commanders are.
And if they lose coming week against the Giants,
back to this,
can have a conversation.
Back to the sewer.
Okay. All right. But you had what's your argument for? I'm not putting the Bucks next. I can hear a conversation for the Chargers, and I've got the Pats being in that territory as well. They beat the Jets.
Okay.
2 weeks ago.
I could definitely hear that, because look, I mean, that Bucks team that was like building momentum, quote unquote, was all halted last week. It looked like the same Bucks that we saw for the first month or two of the season last week. It was not good again. So I guess 15. So it would be Commanders, Chargers, Pats, Bucks, or Seahawks. Yeah, I guess that's fine.
I'd be willing to put the Patriots ahead of the Chargers, but with everybody coming back healthy for the Chargers, these are power rankings. So I'll slide them ahead of England, but it's close. The New England's been playing. All right, to finish out this tier, the Giants right there, yeah, but
I've got the Giants at 17. I've got them in top of tier 3.
Oh, okay.
They haven't won in 2 or 3 weeks now. Feels
they had a bye in between there. So, I mean,
they had a bye in week 9. They haven't had. Yeah, they've been.
I mean,
they lost to the Cowboys, lost to the Lions, beat the Texans, lost to the Seahawks. Yeah, I mean, it's been a rough couple weeks for them. And I mean, like you said, they're 2.5-point dogs at home to the Commanders.
They were in that game with the Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, but you got to think, losing Wan'Dale Robinson, now you're like running out. I literally cannot name a receiver on their team not named Kenny Golladay that's like healthy and actively playing. So, now Odell changes a little bit. Like, it doesn't like move the needle for them as much as it does for like Dallas, just because it matters much more for Dallas. But like, Odell would take up more targets and, mean a lot more for their offense than he would in Dallas. Just it's more impactful in Dallas because Dallas has a meaningful season currently going
The
on.
only
That's rude. I didn't mean that, but
the subtle
still.
fucking body bag.
No, I
the
didn't.
team that I would put ahead of the Giants to round out this tier, or no, okay, so guess I'll seed. I'm putting. I can't. I don't think I'm gonna put the Bucks. Yeah, are you? I think we could put them
Why?
at the top of tier 3. I can't.
I think they just beat. Okay, they just beat Seattle, who then lost again this past week.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
they're definitely in front of Seattle, and
two
I think
losses in a
Seattle's
row.
in front of New York, and I definitely think Tampa's in front of New York. Because, like I said, if Tampa plays the Giant, if the favorite hypothetical, if playoffs started tomorrow, and Tampa played the Giants, which I'm pretty sure is how that would shape out, Tampa's like 4 or 5 point favorites.
Yeah.
Might be touchdown favorites because they're at home.
I mean, I gotta play the roster watching game when I'm doing a podcast with you sometime. I'm cool with it.
Oh, if we were playing roster watching, Commanders would be sitting right between the Colts and the Steelers.
Hey, on paper, we have one of the best. We've had one of the best defenses on paper, and which is why last year was such a fucking miserable embarrassment of a product.
They have this like roller coaster of like they have low expectations, they go over them, then they have high expectations, they go under them, and then this year they've had low expectations again and they're going over that. They just can't seem to either meet the high expectations or just bottom out. They're just constantly right in the middle.
The troubles and quarrels of a left hand up. All right.
And
go ahead.
Then we've got to have a very interesting conversation about Cleveland because they're coming off a win and is back this week. So
yes, Predator is back, and I do have the Browns up towards the top of tier 3, but
I've got them at 18.
I've got the Browns at 17.
Okay, that's fine. I was going to move them in front of the Giants
but
anyway.
I do have a team in front of them that we haven't talked about yet, and it's a team that.
So in tier 2?
Or no. In behind the Giants. Yeah. You see.
So if the Browns are at 17, a team in front of them would be 16, which is in tier 2.
Originally, like looking at my rankings that I put together, I had the Browns at 17. Leading off tier 3. But I had the Giants ahead of them, so that's fair. But the team that I also had ahead of them and I had in tier 2 originally, thinking on it now, like you said, there's been so much parity, it's hard to rank. But this Lions team seems to be really heating up. Dan Campbell has his boys playing for him. This is one of the most exciting stories in football, I guess. Like, I really want to root for the Lions to win. And, dude, they've been on a haul. Like, on Thanksgiving, at home, they almost beat the fucking Bills, man. Like, the Bills were completely healthy. There's no excuse why they shouldn't have smacked the dog shit out of the Lions. And they couldn't, because the Lions are actually starting to play good football now. And before that game against the Bills, in which they lost by only 3 points, and there was the big meme with Josh Allen hugging Stephon Diggs because they barely escaped that one. But before that, they beat the Giants handedly, 31-18. They beat the Bears 31-10 in Chicago. That's 2 road games. 31-30. Yeah, you're right. But then at home, they beat the Packers, and before that they only lose by 4 to the Dolphins. So I think we really got to start to consider putting the Lions up there, man.
Okay, so of teams that I have currently in front of the Lions, oddly enough, I've got 5 teams in front of the Lions just in this tier. And the team that I'd probably feel most confident about the Lions going in front of is the Giants, but I can't do that because they won a couple games earlier this year. I've got the front of the Lions. I've got the Packers in front of the Lions, the Jags in front of the Lions, and I've got Vegas in front of the Lions.
God.
Vegas is doing the same thing that Detroit is right now. They've got the same record, and I feel better about they go out and beat Seattle. Josh Jacobs is running.
A lot of toxicity out there. A lot of injuries also.
Who, though? I mean, you got The offensive line has
Renfro,
been bad.
Renfro,
Carr's there. Waller
Waller.
and Renfro. But they're coming back, aren't they? They were put on IR like what feels like close to a month ago now. I mean, at least one of them's got to be getting ready to come back. I'll check on Waller because obviously, he feels more impactful, especially with Mac Hollins like actually being serviceable. If you get Darren Waller back in there, we got any news on him? May not be ready for week 14, so that's 2 weeks from now.
But they're on a roll right now. So,
Yeah.
okay.
So I'd put them in front of Detroit.
I can't do
Jacksonville,
that.
Just gets a huge win. Why? Get a huge
We're
win
forgetting
against
how bad they
Baltimore.
were.
I think they've got the same record.
I think that speaks more to how bad and how declining the Ravens are right now than it does speak Jags' success at all. Like, okay, take a look. I mean, they won. Justin Tucker, if he's literally a yard closer to that field goal, like he's nailing it, and it's not a debate. But they do lose, or the Jags do win by 1 at home against the Ravens.
Yeah, but that may be true. I think that was just like moronic special teaming there, because why would you swib kick it to the point where they can return it to the 40-yard line? They got to get one play for the greatest kicker of all time to get in field goal range. Seeing that the 48-yard line was the target line was like instant, like that felt like a fever dream to look at, because that shouldn't be real. But we've wanted to see. That was the play that we've needed to see from Trevor Lawrence since he came into the league that we haven't seen yet. Was like, okay, I need to win this game. And he drove them right down the field, got the touchdown that is certainly of question, and then goes, gets 2 point, puts him up. I mean,
okay,
that's the best I felt about Trevor Lawrence and the Jags. Obviously, beating a good team like that, they looked pretty good.
They did look really good. And the way that Trevor Lawrence, it was nothing short of heroic what he did at the end of that. I mean, he was acting like a storybook quarterback, which is something that we really haven't seen out of Trevor Lawrence, especially in the clutch moments. Well, he hasn't been because he's in Jacksonville, but I digress. But since October 9th, man, the Texans, and okay, that was over a month ago, I understand, but the Jags lost to the Texans at home, put up only 6 points. Then they go to Indy before the coaching change, and they lose to the Colts, and they allow the Colts to put up 34 points, which is no excuse for that. And then at home, they lose to the Giants, 23-17. And then they go to London, and they lose to Denver. So this was a terrible, terrible stretch. And then they beat the Raiders, who, according to these power rankings, are the second worst team in football. And then they lose to the Chiefs. Okay, everybody's. And then they had the win this week against the Ravens. But we're forgetting how bad.
If we want to go back to October 9th, I mean, the Lions got shit walked by the Patriots 29-0. Lions lost 24-6 to the Cowboys. If we're going back to October 9th.
Okay, if we're going back to like what the Lions have done in the past month is so much better.
I'll go back the next year.
What the Lions have done in the past month is like crazy fucking better.
I know, but you brought it back 2 months.
Dude, what the Jacksonville Jaguars haven't done anything. Like, okay, they've done once what the Lions have done the past 4 weeks, basically.
Okay, well let's actually think about this. The Lions beat the Packers, who we have in Tier 3. The Lions beat the Bears, who I have as a bottom 4 team. And the Lions beat the Giants, who, yeah, they're Tier 3. But like I just said, I'd feel good about putting the Lions in front of the Giants, despite their record. And then they almost beat the Bills. What is the accomplishment? Where is the big accomplishment from the Lions over the last month? They're 3-1, and props to them, but that's probably the easiest stretch of their schedule.
Jacksonville
right there.
Has 2 wins out of the past.
Okay, the Lions have one more win. They haven't played any team like the Chiefs. The Lions have not played any team like the Chiefs.
Okay.
I mean, if you plug the fucking Bears in for the Chiefs, I'm sure the Jags are 3-1 too.
You're talking to the wrong guy, because like I've been speaking up for the Jags during these power rankings usually, but Also, Jameson Williams coming back for the Lions. Also, they weren't even.
That I'm excited about. I do think they're gonna like kind of put him on a pretty for the next couple weeks, but did pick him up in fantasy this week, slapped him in my IR spot. He's gonna stay there until he gets activated. Don't really know what I'm gonna do once he gets activated because I maxed out on my roster spots. But I think that's exciting for them. And like I said, dude, I would
Okuda was
feel
injured
better
too. They had.
of those 5 teams that I listed. I'd rather put the Giants behind the Lions than any of them.
Well, let's stop talking about it. Do it.
Okay. I think Cleveland with Deshaun Watson back is definitely better than Detroit.
Definitely better than Detroit. They just beat the Bucks at home. And, okay. All right. I can get with that. Okay.
Green Bay. I could definitely hear an argument here, but it feels better. But with Rodgers, might go down here. I don't really know what's going on. If Jordan Love's the quarterback, as much as I thought he looked phenomenal for those 9 dropbacks, I could definitely hear you moving them behind Detroit.
Yeah.
So
the Lions beat the Packers too. So.
Vegas for sure. I think Vegas might actually. I've probably just talked myself into bumping Vegas up to 18, and then we're right back to the Jacksonville Detroit debate. Vegas has the same record. They've had more impressive wins over the last couple weeks, and I think they.
Vapor Watcher.
Okay. You know what? Lion. Okay. So Brown 17. You've done an excellent job here. Then Vegas.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And then I've got Jackson. I've got Jacksonville, Green Bay, and New York. What order are we putting those 3 in? I think that's the next 3, just in some order.
That the Packers, despite the loss, did look pretty fucking good against. And like I said, if it weren't for that Aaron Rodgers pick in the first, there was a really solid chance.
So we're putting them above Jacksonville. So then we're talking Jacksonville and the New York Giants.
Yeah. God, this is the fucking. I think the Giants are going to lose this week. I think they will. And the Jags, who they play? Jags play the Lions.
Well, I think that settles it. Jags then. So the Giants are at 22. Where did we have them at? I'm fairly certain they were in tier 2 before. They were 11th.
God,
in our last power rankings.
Dude, they're 7-5.
This is where they should be, though. I mean, look at they have no receivers.
Wandell being out.
Been completely ineffective.
Wandell being out.
Saquon has been completely ineffective, and no receivers, no running game. You're asking Daniel Jones to be what Aaron Rodgers has failed to be this season, and the defense has this entire season has been average to above average pretty much the entire way. They've got wins, cool, but they're going to be 7-point dogs against the 5 and 6 Bucks in the playoffs.
I mean, if they're already, I could see that spread going up too. If they're already 2.5 at home, they're like plus 2.5 at home against us. That's fucking crazy. That tells you what Vegas thinks about the Giants as well. So, yeah, all right, cool. I'm with the Jags in front of the Giants.
So then, after that, we've got Arizona. We rolling with Arizona. I think I'm keeping Arizona there. I've got Arizona, Pittsburgh, Indy, Atlanta.
Okay. There. To round out tier 3, I'm definitely with Arizona coming next, especially with. I mean, even though they lost, they did look fucking good with Hollywood and D-Hop and James Conner and Kyler Murray. Like, this looks like the number 2 offense in the NFL.
I wouldn't go that far, but they look like one of the offenses out there.
They looked a lot better with getting all their boys back.
They were the number 2 offense in that game. I'll tell you that much.
Okay. Yeah, I've got the Cardinals next. I've got the Falcons.
And I'm probably gonna go Pittsburgh. I'd put Pittsburgh in front of Atlanta. I think I know that I was at the game, so maybe I saw some that Pittsburgh Cincy game felt close the entire way.
It
Like,
was.
I know it ended up being a 2-1 score. It was a 2 score until we scored with like a minute left. But that game felt really close the entire way.
I agree.
I don't know why. I feel like I'm the only one
I
with that
agree. And this
perception.
team is really starting to pick it up the second part of the year. I mean, I was just talking about it.
And guess what? We've got Atlanta this week.
And I was just talking about it. I've got George Pickens as my stud, one of my stud wide receivers for the fantasy playoffs, because I think that'll really continue to click.
Okay.
I mean, he made one of the best wide receiver. He made it look easier than I think I've seen a wide receiver make an adjustment on a ball that I've ever seen. Like that, he made it look like it was a video game. Like, okay, all I need to do is just slightly get off, put out 2 hands, put the 2 feet down, boom, boom. Like, I was like, that's fucking Madden right there. It was insane. Yeah, I mean, the Falcons just lost to us, and they didn't look great. So, yeah, okay. All right, let's put the Steelers to round out Tier 3, man. How's it feel to have your team escape Tier 4?
It's good to be back. It's good to be back. I kind of wish that we were like 32nd, but hey, Mike Tomlin, we're never going to lose. So, hooray. Our draft position, if we lost, I believe we would have been 5th, but we won and now we're 12th. So that sucks. Come close. Can't hear you. You gotta come closer. Can't be all laid back, being all Joe Cool
right,
back there.
You're right.
Didn't work.
Well, Joe Cool just moved the Giants ahead of the Jags because people were gonna get so much flack. We're getting so much flack.
Exactly. So what? Tyler put Mac Jones in the MVP conversation last year, and we just let that slide.
Is ETN healthy?
I think there's like questions of if he's going to play this week or not.
That isn't that great.
There's questions, but they said he was medically cleared. He just didn't finish the game, so they rested him really for no reason.
I don't know. I'm gonna keep it like that, and you can switch it.
I guess. Oh yeah, I'll just do it anyway.
All right. So let's dive into this last tier. Let's try to make it quick. The remaining teams that we have: Colts, Bears, Broncos, Rams, Falcons, Saints, Panthers, Texans. I'll put the Colts up there, leading the pack. Despite, I mean, if they don't terribly manage the clock, they have a solid chance of winning or sending it to overtime at least. I believe it was sent it to overtime.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But yeah, if it weren't for terrible clock management, this team, they finally figured out that, hey, if we get Jonathan Taylor.
And I also have them at 25th. I just want to point out the fact that they did not complete a pass till 7 minutes left in the second quarter.
Yeah, like
they did not complete a pass for 22 minutes of game time.
That's why I am no longer a Michael Pittman owner. That he's a scary situation. He got like 8 targets with 0 catches.
Scary investment.
But okay. So I've got the Colts. I'll put the Falcons behind them because I wanted to put the Falcons up at 3. Then okay. I've got. Okay, I'll just give it to you. Bears, Panthers, Broncos, Saints, Rams, Texans.
Panthers, Broncos, Saints, Rams, Texans. So I've got Saints, Panthers, Bears, Broncos, Rams,
Saints
Texans.
So bad.
Yeah, and I guess Carolina's
been a lot better.
Okay, so I'll put Carolina in front of New Orleans. I don't think Chicago needs to be in front of New Orleans, though, because I don't really think Justin Fields is going to be back this year.
Really?
And for Simeon, I mean, what reason do they have to play him? Their offensive line sucks. His shoulders hurt. They have done what you needed to do this season. It's not like the Jets with Zach Wilson where you're like, okay, well, we need to bring him back because we need to know if this is our guy. I think the Bears have pretty much figured out that they're not drafting a quarterback this year regardless of where they're picking. Why risk having him come back in and make you rethink that decision, whether it be through injury or bad play or whatever. Just sit him out. Try and solidify that second pick. Solidify that second pick. Some team will give you a fucking haul to get up there to get Stroud. And if I mean Trevor Siemian / Nathan Peterman 100% are going to give you a shot to do that.
Yeah, like I get it. If Justin Fields isn't starting for the rest of the year, for sure they belong in the bottom. But we don't know that for sure yet.
Yeah, but I mean, reports are indicating that he's not going to be back this week either.
But this team with Justin Fields is not the worst.
Even with Justin Fields, like since Justin Fields broke out, they haven't won a game. Like they were just being really exciting but losing.
Yeah,
two bad teams.
But it's like it's not terrible teams.
They're fine.
It's not terrible teams. Let me look because I mean, I can't remember the last time that fans have been getting fucked.
The first game that come to my mind.
Like they have played so many close games. Like, okay, they lost to the Jets this past week, pretty handedly. But then in Atlanta the week before, they lost by 3 to the Falcons. They lost by 1 at
Tier 4 team.
They lost by 1 at home to the Lions.
Tier 3
they lost
team.
by 3 at home to the Dolphins. They beat the Patriots earlier this year. And they lost by only 7 points to the Vikings. So,
yeah, but you also got a pretty sure right up until the Dolphins game, they had Roquan Smith and Robert Quinn. And they're easily their 2 best defensive players. You also got to think Eddie Jackson done for the year with I believe it was a broken foot. And that's their next best defensive player. So now you're down to, I believe, Jalen Johnson and some other players that I don't
Brisker,
know.
Second rounder.
I feel like both of them
is
are
Brisker
hurt.
And Kyler Gordon hurt right now?
I feel like I heard that. Maybe not, but
I don't think I can. Not until it's certifiable that Justin Fields isn't playing for the rest of the year. Like, if he was, once he's declared out for a significant amount of time, I'm comfortable moving the Bears back. But I can't, right? But the Panthers probably do belong in front of them for what they've been doing these past few weeks, and they're headed into bye this week too, so they get to be riding high. All right, so that leaves us with these bottom 4 teams. I'm cool with the Saints being ahead of the bunch, dude.
And then Broncos, Rams, Texans. That's it for me. Bryce Perkins is like 80% of the world could be Bryce Perkins. I feel like watching that game. There's no doubt in my mind that I could be Bryce Perkins.
Dude, case the Rams. Like, when is the last time where a Super Bowl team? Oh, yes. When is the last time? When? Tell me when.
Good.
Tell me the last. Like, this Rams team has to be a case study, man. Like, when is the last time that a former Super Bowl team fell so far from grace? Like, holy fuck.
Look, this is what happens. You say, all right, we're going to trade all of our draft picks and we're going to go stars and scrubs. Those are 2 different not 2 different philosophies, but 2 things that are like, ooh, there's a lot of variance with that. Like, if you trade all your draft picks for players, even when you've got a well-rounded roster, you're like, shit, well, a couple years from now, those players get old, those players get hurt, those players leave. You're kind of screwed. Also, you go stars and scrubs, one player gets hurt. On your offense, you've got 6 players on that team, 5 really. You got Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Bobby Wagner, Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey. 3 of those guys are hurt. 2 of them are on IR. Stafford's battling injuries. And they're like screwed. They're fucked. And I mean, they were 18.5-point dogs. I know it's the Chiefs, but 18-point dogs? I don't care who it is. 18 points. That's what happens when you lose 2 or 3 players. And granted, quarterback, receiver, those are 2 pretty important decisions. Also, Allen Robinson, done for the year as well. This team sucks.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying, man, they need to blow it up this offseason. Everybody's got to go. I think McVay's going to get an offer from one of the TV companies. Aaron Donald's going to either retire or get traded. And then after that, it's a fucking fire sale. You can get top value for these big players, and then everybody else just let them walk and completely fucking clean house with this roster. You got your Super Bowl, so the picks moves were worth it. It reminds me a lot of Toronto a few years ago, where like, you know what, Kawhi left after 1 year, but you won a championship. That's what you set out to do. It's worth it, but having to clean that up is going to be a mess.
I mean, I'm just thinking about what they do. Like, where does Stafford go?
You trade the superstars. That was tough. One of the spots that I thought of was Washington. I think that's like not the worst idea in the world. You guys are probably out of consideration to get a rookie quarterback now. A full season of Taylor Heineke
I
would
don't
be
like it.
the like most mentally tolling thing that you'll probably ever experience. And
This season of Matt Stafford would be more mentally tolling by far.
dude, I promise. So 2 weeks when they played the Eagles, I think I was playing the Eagles defense and like I was playing the Eagles defense. And if I lost that game, I was pretty much out of the playoff picture. Every fucking throw he makes looks like it's going to be like a punt return catch pick. Like everything just coming out of his hand is like, oh my God. I don't know how you do that on a week to week. I'd want to kill myself. That just like seems like the most mentally exhausting quarterback to watch play and have to root for every week. God bless you. I have to give you your props. But the other one that I think is really another interesting thought, and this obviously depends on how the draft order shakes up, but Detroit. What if he goes back to what if he gets traded back to Detroit because they might not have that spot to get Stroud or Young, and they might not feel totally comfortable like picking a project with Levis because this team might be ready to win now. Get Stafford. He's obviously familiar with the organization, but this is a new GM, new coach, so you don't have like the bad memories of Detroit. I don't think there was any bad blood with the city of Detroit when he left. So it's not crazy to say that he could just end up back there. And they've got the picks to go get him. I mean, I don't think it's going to be like 2 firsts like it was when he got traded but like that high second that I'm pretty sure they have, that might be able to get the job done.
Yeah. Also, something he might just retire. I mean, he's had all these.
That's another possibility as well. And that's like, because I've been like thinking about this really intensively about like how to
Yeah, I
just
was
like
gonna
blow up the
say,
Rams.
don't use up all your content that you're gonna.
Yeah, I know. But like, everybody retiring is like a doomsday scenario because obviously you get other than McVay, because if McVay retires or goes to TV, it's kind of the Sean Payton situation where you still hold his rights, and if he wants to come back, he's got to come back with you or somebody's got to trade for him. And that's like, oh my God, we've already got our new coach, but we have 2 first-round picks in our back pocket because Sean McVay wants to go coach again. Like that would be phenomenal. But like Aaron Donald's talked about retirement, that's a doomsday scenario if people just start retiring left and
Yeah,
right.
and I could definitely see it. I mean, he's been banged up with the concussions these past few weeks, and his wife has been public about how she obviously doesn't enjoy that. Imagine any spouse doesn't enjoy that. But yeah,
Can't
but
imagine.
also like I mean, Cooper Kupp could pull a Barry Sanders and retire. Like I mean, after Stafford leaves, he might just be.
Patrick Mahomes could pull a Barry Sanders and
Well,
retire.
I'm saying like if Stafford's not his quarterback anymore, he's gonna be like, well, fuck this. I'm not going back to a Jared Goff esque.
I'm not going back to Bryce Perkins.
Like he's not gonna do that. So I mean it'll be an interesting offseason to watch for sure. A little bit of a sneak peek preview for some of the possible content that may be coming out in the near future. All hush hush. But yeah, that does it for our power rankings as we return to the segment after taking a couple weeks off. Let me read it off to you for your audio listeners. And tier 1, we have the Chiefs, Eagles, Dolphins, Niners, Cowboys, Bills, Bengals, and the Vikings at number 8. And then in tier 2, starting out at 9, we have the Titans, Ravens, Jets, Commanders, Chargers, Patriots, Bucks, and Seahawks. Diving into tier 3, we have the Browns, Lions, Raiders, Packers, Giants, Jags, Cardinals, and Steelers. Love to see that both of our teams, after starting the year in the gutter, have both made it out. Let's go. And then in tier 4, we have the Colts, Falcons, Panthers, who have made it out of the bottom 3, Bears, Saints, Broncos, Rams, and the Texans. The Texans will not move. I guess Davis Mills isn't the guy anymore.
I was about to say I can see almost no scenario where the Texans move out of the spot this year.
There's not even a point at having a conversation about like Dave Mills got benched because of his talent. Like, right? Like it wasn't an injury.
Well, I think they just like gonna try to win games, and like you've got to lean into variance with a team like this. Like you can't just have Davis Mills go out there and be conservative because you're gonna lose by 30. Like you've got to go take shots, and like that's what Kyle Allen is. But like Kyle
Yeah.
Allen's not a good quarterback, so I feel like it'll be much. It's much easier to just tell Davis Mills to be more aggressive than it is to tell Kyle Allen to be good. So I don't really understand. And I guess that is pretty much 100% says that they're going to take a quarterback this year unless they really want to risk it, take Will Anderson, and then pray for Caleb Williams next year.
Well, they get their reunion game against Deshaun Watson this week. So that'll be fun to watch.
Dude, I think they might cover the spread. That's about as strong as I can be with the Texans.
Dude,
I think
this is the
week. Listen to me. They're going to cover the spread.
Man. All right. Well,
they're going to backdoor cover.
Barely. Okay. Well, with that, we'll end the power ranking segment this week. We'll catch you guys later on this week with a preview episode and possibly some new shit going on. So it's been good to be returned back to our power rankings. We'll have these out tomorrow till the podcast episode later this week. Take it easy, guys. Peace.